welcome. Thank you. This next hour, we're talking about Blackmagic. You guys have released a jillion products today, right?
Yes, we have, and we now have a horse as well.
And so the Blackmagic Stallion, Tina Eckman from Blackmagic, is going to talk about that next. So give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I think you guys can hear me on this mic okay? Yes, sounds good. We actually do always joke about what's going to happen when we walk up to the next trade show. Will there be a Tesla, a light bulb, a horse, a train, whatever it is. But we did have a ton of exciting announcements today. I don't know if any of you been to the show floor yet. Well, I know I've got my followers. Yeah. So we had 38 new product SKUs, which means prices, and we had 18 product announcements. So I'm going to cover what's new, so forgive me if it's not something you're interested in, but I have a feeling there'll be at least one thing that will pique some interest in everybody, or for everyone that's here as well. And I am Tina Eckman, by the way. I'm based out in LA. I work with key accounts out there, and I'm kind of like the cruise director of Southern California, so making sure everybody gets what they need and has some fun along the way as well. But we have, basically 3 areas where we've really expanded our offerings this NAB, and the first one is 12 gig. So I know a lot of broadcasters are working towards 60 frames a second. We've proven it's working. We need to make sure the rest of our workflow was updated in such a way that we could handle 21p 60 frames a second for our friends that are ready to move forward. And for those people that aren't moving forward, we still want to have the products where you're being future-proofed, right? So it's in the product. You may still be using the HD version of it now, but you're ready for the next level without having to do a major overhaul a second time around. So with that said, we'll start off now. I must say, there is a literal bucket of 12G or 12G products that we've come out with. So I'm going to go through these slides a little bit fast, because otherwise we will be here way too long. But the Ultra Studio 4K Extreme, I'm sure some of you are familiar with Ultra Studios. Anyone? Kind of like the Uber breakout box of all breakout boxes. So basically capture and playback, PCIe, Thunderbolt, as well as ProRes codecs on board. And we now have H.265 encoders on board as well, which is pretty exciting, and we're showing that off in the booth. If this is exciting to you, you got lots of plugs here to look at. SDI, in, out, optical, Thunderbolt. Here's the PCIe Express as well as reference, and dual power supply. And there's another version of the back of the board as well. Component, analog, AES audio, as well as EBU audio. And of course, we have optional fiber that you can add as well. And it's pretty enough to sit on your desk. Very important. But we do that with a lot of our products where we have the option to have the rack mountable or not. And we're saying July for this product at $29.95. Of course, we have our DeckLink Pro product line, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. So this is our 12G version of that as well. This is in May, actually, $595. This is one of my favorite new products, which seems kind of crazy. But you guys are familiar with our converters? So that's really where we started, the little gray box. And we've actually done a redesign on these for 12 gig. Part of the problem is the little gray box with the cables that stick out of the side, kind of like the octopus thing. They would overheat if we tried to do them at 60 frame because the airflow wasn't so good. So we've actually been working with some thermal designers, which I think is kind of a cool thing. We've expanded the chassis and given it better airflow into the box. And you'll notice a couple other little changes, like the cables now all come out of the back. So it gives it a much cleaner look, but also allows us some room to work with. And we also have added things like Ethernet in here as well. And you'll see that it's actually not that much bigger in size than the original octopus design, but cleaner, and we can work with it in many different ways. The other thing is, some of you are probably familiar with the dip switches on this converter where you'd have to set it to what you need. They're still there, but now we actually have an optional panel that you can put on the front. And instead of switching the dip switches, you can push buttons, which is kind of nice and clean, as well as you have confidence monitoring there with the LCD screen on top. So that's actually without the optional monitoring, and that's the optional panel on the other side over there. And that's looking pretty. And more pretty. In addition, just reminding you the Ethernet port. So, we used to just have the boards where you'd stack them into a slot, not as easy to work with, and a little bit more difficult to set up. But now, because of the Ethernet port, we can put them on a shelf. You can have everything connected. That is an optional shelf that we bought or sell that you can put 3 of them on, and you can take one off, add one on, whatever you need to do for a rack mount. There they are again, and there they are again, lots of them. But then you also have a UI that allows you to set them up individually, which makes it a much cleaner design to work with. Lots of slides on the Teranex. 2ME broadcast, anybody into switchers? Anybody? Yeah, okay, 12 gig version. There you go. Basically the same thing, just 12G now. And then we have an ATEM talkback converter. So this is basically a way that you can take back cameras, and you've got 8 different cameras that can plug into here, and then you can do talkback and tally with them for some of our studio cameras that you're seeing in the room here as well. And it does have an optional fiber option as well. And obviously our 12G HyperDeck Studio, which these are a great product as well that are very, very popular. And that's also available in May. Video Hub, 12G. You guys getting the flow of this? And here we have a 12G product. And Smart Video Hub in back, 40 by 40 on this one. And then we have a clean switch. This is kind of a new product for us as well. So for those people that have a router and they were trying to use it as a switcher, but they'd get a glitch here and there, et cetera, this is our answer for that, basically. So it acts like a video hub, but you can use it as a kind of a mini switcher. I've heard it's like a 10X. Someone can correct me later if that's not right. But at any rate, this will prevent you from having a glitch if you switch from one channel to another, but it's not really the same as having a full-blown switcher. So it's kind of like in between a hub and a switcher. Any questions? Good, okay. Cameras, is anybody here interested in cameras? No, maybe a couple, okay. We have a few camera announcements to make. First of all, pocket camera, love the pocket camera. Designed as a little handheld camera. You guys have probably seen it, it's about the size of my old cell phone, not my micro cell phone, but the little handheld guy, micro 4/3 lens, great. But it was kind of like a more intimate design that people started doing crazy things with, which we love, by the way, because it gives us new ideas for things like this. So the drone is not ours, by the way. But you can see in the center, there is a lens with something that looks like a block behind it, and that is our micro cinema camera. And it's really designed to be used for whatever crazy idea that you people are going to come up with next, which we love. But in this case, you'll see on the right side, well, let me tell you about the camera first. It's the same sensor as the Pocket. So the Super 16, 13 stops of dynamic range, gorgeous image. Let me tell you, the Pocket has been used in all these places, but I can't actually tell you because we can't say it because they're big studios and they have a lot of action heroes and stuff like that, as well as some other really exciting shows where they film a lot of angles and whatnot, but we can't really talk about it yet. At any rate, they needed something, as well as others needed something that could be crammed into little spaces in the front of a car, hanging out the car on a helmet, whatever. Also, it's really difficult to run around and start 5 different cameras at the same time. So with that said, we have these ports on the side. Oh, there's the size of it, by the way. It's like a tennis ball. Let me go back here for a second. The port on the far side here at the bottom, that's an expansion. So we can basically hack this camera to do a whole bunch of different things, which is where this comes in. So the side that you can plug in, there's actually a cable that's going to come with it. And it's basically like the remote control, the aircraft remote controls for the drones, et cetera. There's going to be controls that you can use. That is there a whole page on our website that will help describe this. Over 80 different features with this new technology called S-Bus. So a lot of remote control people used to use technology called PWM, but we're using the S-Bus control, which gives you a whole slew of things that you can control, like iris and focus and whether or not it's talking to servers and automatic play, start, stop kind of things. So we can program the cameras so that we can push a button and 5 cameras start at the same time, or we can control the tilt on a drone or anything like that. This is all working in our booth, by the way. We have a couple drones there. You could go see the aircraft controllers, watch the cameras move around, and the images are being broadcast as well. A couple other things you'll notice is on the right, or on the side right there with all the buttons, menu, power, same menu design essentially as what's on our Pocket and our other cameras, so very consistent. HDMI out, because if you haven't noticed yet, there's no way to see your image on this particular camera head yet. Over here, we have a spot for an SD card so you can record your content, and it will do HD content 1920 by 1080, and as well as a microphone control. So it can be mounted there or there. Micro Four Thirds lenses, so you're going to get beautiful cinematic images. We're saying this will be available in July, and the price is $9.95 for this one. Oh, and then there's a record light on the front, too. So if you have actors in the front, they can push the record button to say it's recording, and they'll see that it's actually working if you just have one set up. Could we use this design? So at the same time, because that small form factor was useful for like the drone or the car inserts, whatever, we also realized that in the studio environment, this would also be good. So you've got a cooking show, you need, a coffee cup to have a camera sticking out of it secretly so people couldn't see it, and it gives you more angles and more functionality as well. So we use that same form factor to create a studio camera, but we've done a little bit interesting things with that one as well. Really the best way to know that you're looking at the studio camera is there's no record button on the front because it's a live camera, right? So you're not actually recording to SD on this particular one, but you do have SDI out as well as mic out and headphones on this side. And over on the other side, you have the HDMI port as well as that expansion port again. But in this case, the expansion port is used for B4 lenses. So it'll come with a little adapter as well as a cable that will come out of the lens so that we can plug that in and actually have the full control over the lens, which, yay, because some people were very interested in that as well. And this is really meant to go back to our switchers as well. So all of the DaVinci color controls built into the camera will then be controlled by our switchers. So you could have multiple cameras in multiple locations, driving everything in a beautiful way from our switchers. It's all magical and beautiful and a great image because this one does 4K, so Ultra HD 4K resolution, gorgeous. Both of these have a removable Canon-style battery on the back, but can also be powered, obviously, as well. And, and this is kind of funny, because there's the camera in the back, and then obviously some of these lenses get pretty big with the B4 lenses in particular. And you'll notice underneath the rods, there's actually this little pod, and that's actually a power regulator so that we don't blow up either the camera or the lens because of the difference in the power volts going through. So it's just kind of a buffer there to make sure there's no explosions on set that we don't want. And we can shoot all kinds of things. We like beauty shots, and I love that they put this in the goal, by the way. So with these fancy new cameras, we can't see the images unless we take the HDMI out and put them into a computer. We can set all the menus, blah, blah, blah. It's great, but wouldn't it be great to have another way of doing that? So here we are with our first camera accessory, because we have a few this year. Our Blackmagic Video Assist, and it's a little 5-inch screen, super bright, so you can see it in various lighting areas as well. Touch screen, so that menu should look fairly familiar if you've ever seen our cameras. You've got our histograms, etc. Plug in the HDMI into one of those other two cameras I just showed you, and you can set menus that way. It also has a SD card in it, so you can record directly to the SD card on here as well, which means if I take that little same monitor and plug it onto the Ursa or screw it on top of the Ursa, I could be recording full RAW on Ursa and an HD proxy on the Video Assist. So lots of possibilities there with what you can do for this little monitor. Again, touch screen. Dual batteries. One battery drains, goes to the next battery, so you can hot swap them. You're not going to ever have them both draining equally at the same time. More beauty. Lovely. Nice. And it's $4.95, and it should be available in July. Does this seem useful? I think this one's cool. Okay. Mm.
This records ProRes into this?
Yes, and DNX HD. So.
So you can have a DSLR and just use this as your...
Yes, yes. So ProRes, and it's light to HQ, I believe. I don't think there's the other. I think it's the full. I think it's the full range of ProRes that we do. But not the 12-bit because it's on SD, so right. And it's 1920 by 1080 screen, HD resolution. Touch screen. Really easy to, the controls are a little different on this one, so that where it says codec at the top, you just tap it, and then it brings up the codec menu. It's actually a really nice menu design on that one as well. So with that said, I mentioned we had other accessories. This is the Ursa viewfinder. So we have studios in the room right now, thank you. But the Ursa, a lot of people want to be able to look through a viewfinder, especially in bright daylight, or they're just more used to that. So we've added this to our product line for Ursa. There's controls on the top of it, and you can actually set different functions. It's showing you zoom, display, and peak, but there's actually 3 more functions on that you can program yourself to control different parts of the camera. You have the focus, and actually there's a focus guide that you can set up to make sure that your eye is focused and you can see, but then it also will line up with the camera, so your camera, you can be confident that the focus will be precise. The actual glass optics, precision glass optics, beautiful. OLED display, 1920, 1080. There's no pixelation. It's very smooth, clean. You can set it for black and white or color or whatever you want to do that works for you. Left eye, right eye. Has the cables to connect directly into Ursa, right in the right spot, of course, and a record light in the front. And there it is on top of it. And that's available in July for $14.95. So with that said, on Friday we actually announced a couple things. We announced an update to allow us to do 120 frames per second on Ursa. Are there any Ursa users in here? A couple people. Okay, so 120 frames is now available as a download for you, free of charge, of course.
That's just an update?
It's an update, yeah. You know, hey, you're a friend, take an update. And with that said, we were happy to announce today a brand new sensor. So one of the selling points of Ursa was that it was user upgradable, which means that you, my friends, can now go and decide, okay, hey, I want to go to the new 4.6 sensor because A, it's a beautiful big frame size, but it's also giving me 3 more stops of dynamic range at 15 stops these days for dynamic range. Image is incredible. You see more on the monitor than your eye can see because it's just so much detail. But we're really excited to get that out to customers. I expect it around July. I imagine that this new sensor will be available to the upgrader people, people that are upgrading first, and then it'll start to roll out in the cameras next. But with that said, again, it's user upgradable, so you can order that. And it will start at $2,000 for the EF and $2,500 for the PL people. Oh, and there it is right there. Oh, the other thing we did is we dropped the price of Ursa for new users by $1,000. So starting today, if they're going to buy that and then they want to upgrade the sensor later, they're not taking an extra hit. So let's move on to the cinema camera. You guys may have seen this form factor. It was a very different design. This was Grant's image of what people do when they shoot in Australia, a documentary style kind of through the jungle. Apparently the cravat makes a big difference. But we thought it would be great for this. Customers were like, no, that doesn't work. We need it like this. And we decided that's ugly. So that's really where Ursa came from. But then Ursa was very big and more of a workflow thing, so that wasn't quite right either. So we decided to come out with Ursa Mini. Yay! Ursa Mini, naked without any accessories, weighs 5.5 pounds versus the 17 pounds that Ursa weighs. It is definitely smaller. You can see that with the big, beautiful 10-inch screen that pops out on Ursa. This one's a 5-inch screen. Looks very, very similar, if not identical, to the Video Assist. It's the same screen, actually. So really bright touch screen, flies out there on the side, but has the same gorgeous sensors that we have on Ursa in the Mini. So same image, you can buy the 4.0 or the 4.6 as an EF or a PL. So that's where we're getting all these SKUs from. You can see each camera now is going to have options. So same image. Big difference here, though, is that Ursa will do upwards of, actually I've heard now, if you're using HD, 150 frames a second. Ultra HD, 120 frames a second with a rolling shutter. So if you need a global shutter, you're doing fast motion, you can do 60 frames a second. You guys know about the rolling global thing? Yeah, okay. So, and this guy does about half because he's smaller. So he's going to do 60 frames a second rolling or 30 frames a second global in full raw Ultra HD. 4.6, I should say. And I think the frame rates are actually going to vary with some testing depending on what all your settings are. But both of those bodies are liquid cooled, so they can handle the speed changes, et cetera. So who knows where we'll get with this one with the frame rates eventually, but out of the gate, we're gonna do 60-30, yes?
This can also do all flavors of ProRes.
Oh yeah. So all the ProRes flavors and all the same codecs are all there as well. In fact, on that note, we do Cinema DNG RAW, and when you open up the screen there, you actually get the CFast cards, the dual slot CFast cards. And part of the way that we're getting that really fast throughput to the cards with those high frame rates is they're splitting the frames. So if you're shooting 60 frames on the Mini rather, you're going to get a frame going to each of the CFasts. We're going to lay an audio track down on both the CFast cards. So God forbid if you lose a card, you still have 30 frames, or 15 frames or whatever half of your rate was you were shooting. But at the same time, it just allows for those faster speeds. On the slower speeds or the lower speeds, you can still record CFast, and then you could be hot swapping them. So if you're doing an interview style and you don't want to miss a second, a card fills up and you're putting in the next card and pulling it and switching them around. Yes? That is a good question, actually. So the difference between, another difference, aside from the frame rates, is this one is not user upgradable. But I will cushion that blow by telling you that the EF 4.0 sensor is $299 for the camera, $29.99, $3,000. So it's a lower price model. We're expecting that most of the people that are going to be buying this will be fairly happy with a 4.6 for quite some time. Things like frame rates, we've already proven that we can do some of that in software releases. So at the point where they're going to need a much bigger resolution, we may have a different design, they may want something different, or a second one won't be such a huge hit to the wallet.
What's the HDSDI I/O complement on this?
So we have, I'm not sure I'm going to totally answer that question properly, but we have 12 gig out. And then we also have a 3 gig on the side as well that's really meant for the viewfinders. So you'll see that the viewfinder is on here as an optional accessory, so you can plug that in. If you're not, it has the 5-inch screen as well, yeah.
But you do have a 12 gig output.
Yes, we have the 12 gig output. We have reference and time code also in the back and full power, as well as XLR audio. See, I've gone way off the slides because I get tired of clicking. It's so much work.
And it's water cooled,
Yeah, they're both liquid cooled. Yeah, I don't know what the liquid is. I haven't asked.
Yeah, I meant to say this.
Yeah, honestly, it could be water. It could be something else. I don't know. Same battery as we use on the Ursa, so IDX and Tom Bauer, so they're swappable if you end up with, 2 different Ursas. Thank you very much. And at least your parts are going back and forth as well. I've already talked about that. ProRes, just more beauty shots. Oh, have not addressed this. Rosette on the side. There's actually a trigger start-stop handle that comes with the camera, and it can screw into that rosette right there on the side of the body. But what you're actually seeing right now is the shoulder kit as well. And what that is the quick release shoulder mount as well as the top handle. So very easily you can quick release, pop it on your shoulder. What isn't in the picture is the extension rod that you move the trigger from the side down below, so you can very easily move, and the balance of the camera is beautiful, and you can walk around with it, and it's a lovely thing. And the cables, again, are connected from the electronic viewfinder. That's what you're seeing down that side. We've also improved the microphone underneath the electronic viewfinder right now. There's a brand new microphone system in there that's really powerful, much better audio than we were getting, because Ursa, we were expecting people to hook up mics. This, you actually have an option you don't maybe need to as often. And then that's the handle on the side that it comes with, and it's link compatible as well. And that's the cooling vents you see on the top, and the microphone, and all of the holes there. So again, I mentioned that it was 5.5 pounds. And there's somebody looking beautiful and beautiful. Very nice. This is supposed to be the independent filmmaker, if you didn't guess. It's actually really interesting, though, because I've had the opportunity to go to some film festivals over the past couple years with Blackmagic, and the independent filmmaker has truly embraced this camera. I can't imagine what's going to come out of it with the 4.6. I mean, it's so gorgeous. But it's just kind of goes to show you that this price point is really getting the artwork and the tools into the right hands of people that are out there innovating and trying new things, and it's just really exciting to watch. So we've already kind of gone through this. I don't think there's anything I missed there. Obviously, we have 3 screens on Ursa. We only have the flyouts on the side now for Mini. You see the handle is different on Mini. We talked about it's not user upgradable, as well as the frame rates are a little bit different. But otherwise, you feel like it's a good value for the money? You guys interested in this one? Yeah.
There's 5 VNC connectors on the Ursa, and there's only 3 on the Mini.
Yes. And for the life of me right now, I believe there's there's an extra SDI out. And that's what it is for reference video. But this one it does have Genlock and timecode on it, but I think it's all in one connection.
Okay.
But for clarification on that, I would be happy to follow up with you. And there's a whole booth of camera experts across the way with lenses and accessories and drones and switchers, and it's amazing. So if you have time to come by, you really should. It's quite a lovely set we've got up, and you can really get in there and look at the sensor difference and see the monitoring of it. There they are again, because you can never see enough Blackmagic pictures. Upgradable. Handle again on the side. There's all the models of the Mini. So 2 different sensors, 2 different mounts, 4 cameras. Good? Okay, and accidentally, there's cameras missing out of this section. So I'm going to just tell you for a minute, because I have a few minutes still before we get into the next section. The pocket camera, as I was mentioning, was all over. We didn't talk about the micro cameras. We did talk about the micro cameras. So I did micro, both micros. Mini, oh, never mind, we're good. It's been a long day, and it's only 3. Resolve, have any of you guys played with Resolve Color? Because I know a lot of you are Final Cut people, right? Yes? Okay, so we have a few Resolve people here. This is really cool. And I actually have a video because they can summarize a lot of things in here in a much more elegant way than me tap dancing for you. So I'm just going to play that if that's okay with you, and then we can talk a little bit more after. Thank you. And it's not going to talk, it's going to play, but not apparently, I think I did something wrong. Okay, so anyway, you get to listen to me some more anyway. Well, we had it working, but that's okay. So we've added quite a bit. What they're actually showing you now is the updated media handling, media management. We have things like smart bins that we can very easily search across various places, and it pulls everything up and puts it into the bin. And based on keywords like interview, it can automatically populate for you as well. So that's what's showing there. We also have this is our multicam viewer, so it's going to show you, hey, I want to work with these 6 shots. Give me a multicam project. And I can do that based on in, out, or sound. So it's going to take the sound track, and it's going to lay down the multi-track time code for me. And now I can basically edit by using multicam. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this kind of style. You've got lots of options. It's going to drop it down. You can see as you add it, it edits in. We also have the ability to add curves, etc. So they're just adjusting the levels right now on the audio on the fly. So as we're doing our edits, we're automatically adjusting levels, and it's keeping track of all that for us. We can use AU plugins as well as VST audio plugins. There's an AU dynamics processor, just showing you can adjust the curves directly in Resolve now. And then, of course, our delivery page, which is actually quite infamous anyway. But we've now added things like being able to round trip out to other people, to other companies. Like if any of you use Audio Pro Tools, popular. But the thing that I like to tell people, and this is basic editing, which you guys know, except that you can do more with the buttons. The more we add, the better our XML is, or better our metadata is. So if you're round tripping to something like Final Cut or some other editor, it's going to all stay there. Drag and drop into the timeline from the Finder. So if you want to add an image real quick, you'll be able to do things like see the actual motion path as you're working, which I love this, and adjusting the handles. And then you can actually dial in and adjust the curve and the flow of that directly within the timeline itself. This is a custom cross dissolve that we're just, again, adjusting the handles on that to make the transitions a little more unique and finessed. Have no idea what they're about to do right now. We're dropping something in. Oh, yes, this is just our very easy to do. Oh, so nested timelines. You guys know what nested timelines are? Such a powerful tool. That's all in there now, so we can automatically nest those, and we're just shortening the length of credits very simply in here. This is back to the media management, because now they're going to export everything, gather it all up, and get it ready to export and deliver or archive. So it's nice to be able to pull all your elements together and make sure you're archiving everything. We've also added a really great 3D perspective 3D tracker, which is on the far right there. So a tracker will lose its place if something interrupts in front of the camera. But if you click this simple checkbox, see how well I did that? When you go back, it has automatically added more tracking points, and it will keep it in place. So now if you're going to do something like grading, it's very easy to go around and color on the outside of that. We've also added a chroma keyer, and this is quite phenomenal to me as well. Really simple to set the matte on this. We're just going to set this up for a composite. And through that alpha channel, we're just going to grab some color information here on the 3D. So we're going to take that section right there, and then we'll get our alpha channel, which is actually the wrong way. We need to invert it. So let me do that. There, I did it. And now we're going to add some more colors in there. So we've got a good map, but we need a little bit of cleanup. So we'll go back to the clean black, just that. There, it's gone. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's a little scary what we can do. And now we're going to adjust some spill suppression, because that always happens with green screens. So we're just taking that out. And we're going to attach the key. Thank you. And we're shot matching it. So now, really quickly, we've automatically adjusted the levels, which again is getting very scary. And then the matte was the wrong shape, because you can see the top. So we're just going to adjust the Bezier curve on that really quick to clean that up. I'll just pull that in there and put another dot there. We got it. And now it's going to lose track because it doesn't know that it's off center. So do you know what we're going to do? Perspective 3D, checkbox, and we're smart now. Keep it in place, and just that easy, we've got this very amazing, realistic looking shot, which tells you can't believe anything you see ever again. And on this part, I'm doing something amazing here. Oh, I'm matching all the scenes together. So I've got this beautiful orange sunset. I want to pretend they were all during the same part of the day. I'm going to shot match the whole timeline with a click of a button. So with that said, I think we're about done. Oh yes, we're just looking at how gorgeous this is, all these things we can do. They've actually done a lot of work on the UI, balancing out, because you're used to looking at the very bright screen in the center. So they've lightened the blacks, brightened them up a bit so that it's a more even brightness on your eyes, which reduces eye fatigue. See, we're so concerned. We want to make sure everybody's okay. With that said, did you get any of that? That was a lot of information. Does anybody have any additional questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said they have like keyword nibs, or is it like the same kind of keywording as Final Cut?
I can't honestly compare exactly, but I think it's probably fairly similar. I've heard from some of my Final Cut friends that this is really, really familiar and comfortable. We have some good Apple friends that are now Blackmagic employees as well that have been working with us for a while. And we really wanted to make Final Cut 7 users feel comfortable. It's important for us, we're known as very, very powerful color correction. And if you look at most of the content out there, I am pretty comfortable saying that almost all of it is touched by Resolve in one way or another, and a pretty large amount is actually colored in Resolve. We want to give people the opportunity to not have to leave to do edits if they choose, or if they're fortunate enough to have a system they work on at work and they love it and they want to go at night and work on their free version of Resolve at home, or if they're a student and they want to work on something that's industry standard. We're making more options for everyone. We're still building in round tripping functionality, as you can see by things like Pro Tools, and the more we add, the better it is for everybody. But with that said, we're a very innovative engineering-based company, and we like to fill and add new things to products. And every year I'm thinking that we're not going to be able to do this again. And look at us this year. We've got just amazing products across the board. It's been a really exciting day over at Blackmagic today, and the energy level is incredible. So always looking forward to the next.
Any other
thing.
questions? Right here.
Send it to Fusion from the Fusion.
Oh, okay, so Fusion, I didn't touch on them. I apologize. And Fusion, you know, we purchased, for those of you that don't know, we purchased Ion in September, walked up to the booth and went, oh, we have a company. So that is a node-based compositor, very different code base. It was Windows only in September. In the booth today, we're demonstrating on Mac only, which is really cool because even though we have the Windows version, obviously, we're fully running on Mac, but it's not done being ported over, and we're also going to port it over to Linux for some of our professional users as well. We haven't announced anything about how they're going to work together. In my own opinion, I'm not sure that the code will totally mesh, and nor should it, maybe. I mean, obviously the engineering team will figure that out, but I would imagine that there will be integration in a way that would make sense. We are working on the UI. I've seen some images of the UI, a little more Resolve-like, you know, those beautiful colors we just talked about, the refined fonts. But really clean design on that product anyway. But I think that we'll start to see a compatibility between the software products. The Mac, Windows, Linux version, new UI, and whatever else they can squeeze in will be Q3. So I imagine we'll get a bigger update towards the end of the year.
All right. Tina, thank you so
Anything else?
much.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Tina has to run. She's